A lot of wonderful things have happened in the desert, but the desert is a very dangerous place. The wind blows constantly, and it blows the sand all around, so that there are no landmarks. There's no way to know where you are, where you have been, or where you are going. It also causes the sand to blow around and sting your skin while you're out in the desert. And the sun beats down incessantly so that people in the desert wear a lot of clothes to protect them from the sun and the wind. Since there's no water in the desert, very little, if anything, grows. So there's no food and no water. So the desert is a very dangerous place, and nobody goes into the desert unless they absolutely have to. Now, after the flood, animals and people started moving towards all four corners of the earth. And people built towns, and they built great cities. One of those cities was called Ur. And their people in Ur believed that there was a God for everything, a God in every tree, every rock, every river, a God up in the sky, a God in the ground. But there was one family in Ur that thought that there was only one God, that he was everywhere and in everything. They didn't know this yet, but this is what they thought. They found that this is the family of Abram and Sarai. God told them to leave Ur. So they gathered all of their family, all of their servants, their animals, and all of their possessions. And they went out across the desert, but they stayed close to the great river Euphrates, which gave them a direction to go and provided water for them and everyone who was with them. Soon they came close to a town called Haran. People were leaving that town to go out to do what they needed to do. And Abraham and Sarai settled there. Now, Abram would go out to the edge of the desert, come close to God, and God would come so close to him that Abram knew what God wanted him to do. God wanted him to leave Haran for another place. So he and Sarai gathered all of their animals, possessions, and Abram's brother's son Lot went with them. They went across the desert again, but this time they had no river to guide them. And they came to a place called Shechem. Abraham climbed up the mountain there, and he prayed to God and saw that God was there. So he built an altar to God. And they continued on to another place called Bethel. And Abram prayed to God there and saw that God was there too, and then he knew that God was everywhere and in everything. So they continued on. Finally, they settled at Hebron. And so they built their tent near the oaks of Mamre. God went out the edge of the desert again. And he came close to God, and God came close to him, and he knew. God told him that he would be the father of a great nation. Abram thought this was funny because he was very old, and so was Sarai. But Abram told God anyway to change his name in this Aries too. Abram became Abraham and Sarai became Sarah. Now one day it was Abraham was sitting outside his tent. He was approached by three men. He told Sarah to fetch water and milk for them. He made bread and got meat for them. And the three men told Abraham that in the next year, Abraham and Sarah would have a son. Sarah laughed, but a year later, they did have a son. They named him Isaac, which is, in their language, laughter. Now, Sarah was old and full of years. She died and was buried near the oaks of Mamre. Abraham was very sad, also very old and full of years, but he knew he still had one job left to do, and that was to find a wife for his son Isaac. So he sent his most trusted servant back to Haran to find a wife for Isaac. When the servant came close to Haran, he met Rebekah, who offered him a drink of water and helped him to water his animals. Rebekah was very kind and courageous. The servant visited Rebekah's family and told them about the great family that God told Abraham he'd be the father of. And Rebekah said she wanted to be a part of that family. So she went back with the servant, and as soon as Isaac saw her, he rejoiced, and they got married. Now by this time, Abraham was very old and full of years, and he died and was buried near the oaks of Mamre. Isaac and Rebekah had children, and their children had children, and their children had children, and this went on for thousands of years. So finally your grandparents had children, your parents had children, and now you're part of the great family. Now I wonder what part of the story you thought was the most important. I wonder what part of the story you thought that you liked best. I wonder what part of the story was about you or that reminded you of yourself. And I wonder if there's any part of the story that we could have left out and still had all of the story we needed.